Over the past few seasons, Everton have flirted with relegation. However, after last season, David Moyes returned to the club, and with Everton moving into their new stadium next season, there is a sense of optimism across the blue side of Merseyside. So, in today's video, we're going to have a look at Everton next season and how they could potentially set up. We're going to have a look at maybe some of the signings they've already made and also make a few recommendations on some signings Everton could make to potentially get Europe next season. So, without further ado, let's get straight into this. And in today's video, I first wanted to start off with this man here, Sean Dyche. Now, Sean Dyche, he splits opinions. I think recently, obviously, he's become a bit of a meme in a good way, obviously with the utter woke nonsense. But Dyche was given a tough job at Everton. He joined Everton in a time of turmoil. They just spent a lot of money building their stadium. They had issues with their ownership, issues with FFP and PSR. And Dyche kind of had the envious job of, trying to keep Everton up at that point and trying to keep them above the relegation zone, which, in my opinion, is an area which Everton should never be near. If I just scroll down here, you'll be able to see here is the actual historical table positions that Everton have had over the last few seasons. So as you can see here, we have 10th, which was the season I believe that Carlo Ancelotti was at the club. And as you can see here, we go down to 16th, 17th, 15th, and 13th. So this here is nowhere near the standard that Everton Football Club should be at. They're a massive club. They won 9 league titles, 5 FA Cups. Flirting with relegation from 2021 to 2024 is disappointing. I mean, last season they came 13th. Obviously, there wasn't really much of a relegation battle last season. Because see these 3 seasons here, Dyche did the best job he could to keep the side afloat. But I think the football he played inevitably wasn't going to get them maybe to where Everton should be. And where Everton should be leads me on to my next part, which leads me to this guy here, David Moyes. Now, David Moyes is back at the club, and I think there's sometimes in football there's just fits and fits at work. And I think David Moyes and Everton fit perfectly together. This has kind of given me an excuse just to put a few random old Everton players. I think if you can maybe define the word Barclays in this Everton team would be up there. I've got players from a few of the different eras. You've got Marouane Fellaini, Tim Cahill, Kevin Morales, Leighton Baines. My point being here is that Everton used to not really flirt with relegation. Everton were the best of the rest. You used to have your classic big four back in the day, which was Liverpool, United, Chelsea, and Arsenal, and Everton would be consistently fighting for fifth, sixth, seventh. As you can see here in David Moyes' time at Everton, towards the end of his tenure, he was finishing seventh, sixth. Fifth here was actually under Roberto Martinez, but David Moyes was constantly getting Everton to punch with some of the heavyweights. They finished above Liverpool one year, and only missed out on Champions League qualification because Liverpool actually won the Champions League. So this is the level which Everton should be at. You might also remember managers like Ronald Koeman and Roberto Martinez, who also kind of helped steady the ship. You can see even just looking back to 7 or 8 years ago, Everton were trying to finish around that 7th to 8th spot again, which is much healthier than the positions they are in today. Remember, they've always had good players like Romelu Lukaku, Gerard Deulofeu. We could talk about Richarlison in recent years. I'm kind of painting this picture of trying to put Everton back where they should be. I think the Premier League's a better place. Seeing Everton competing, trying to get into Europe. I think they're a massive club. I think with the new stadium this season, I think they could have a great chance. So today's video, we're going to have a look at who they've already signed, who's left, and then just a few key tweaks that David Moyes, I think, could make to his system and squad that can really propel Everton into Europe next season. Now, just taking a look at who's left the club this summer, these are probably the 4 main players that have departed. So we've got Michael Keane there. Obviously, probably had mixed reviews this time at Everton. Never probably really lived up to the player that we maybe initially thought at Burnley. He's leaving the club, so that does leave Everton maybe larger in that centre back department. Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well. It's kind of a shame to see what's happened to Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the past few years. I think when he was younger, and it was only a couple of years ago, he was considered as one of England's next strikers, one of the next goal scorers in the Premier League. But I feel like each season he's kind of regressed and actually got worse to the point now where his goal scoring numbers are actually really poor. So personally, I don't see this as much of a loss to Everton. We'll go on and have a look a little bit later how they've addressed this and how they could potentially address it even further. But for me, I don't think that's the biggest loss in the world. Also, Ashley Young as well. What a career he's had. He's been a brilliant servant wherever he's been, whether it's United, Aston Villa, Everton. But it's clear now, over 37, 38. I think he's nearly 40 actually. That he probably shouldn't be playing at this level, and now he's gone to Ipswich actually in the Championship. And then probably I'd say the biggest loss of them all is Abdoulaye Doucouré. Doucouré's been a brilliant player for Everton over the past few years. He was almost a favourite, I guess, to Sean Dyche. Obviously, when he used to play that 4-4-1-1, Doucouré would play in that role just behind the striker. I mean, some of those late runs, he had the energy, the tenacity he had in that midfield. Everton fans loved him, and he's going to be a big miss. So these are some of the players that have left. I think Doucouré is probably, like I said, the main miss. I say the other three are quite replaceable. I think you need to get a few bodies in there, but I think Doucouré will take some more replacing. So let's have a look and go on to maybe some of the transfers that Everton have already made this window. So moving on to some of the signings that Everton have made this summer. The first one is Adam Asnou. So he is a Moroccan left back. He's 19 years old that they signed from Bayern Munich. Asnou's an interesting one. He comes in as quite an attacking profile style of left back, with overlaps and good crossing. He came actually from La Masia before signing for Bayern in 2019. He was also on loan at Real Valladolid last season as well. So he comes in for about £8 million. He's expecting to challenge for Mikalenko. I'd say he's probably an upgrade in terms of attacking output wise. Mikalenko's, I think, is quite limited in that department. So it'd be good to see them two compete. And I'll expect that Moyes will rotate the two throughout the season. We also have Thierry Barry as well, who is a 22-year-old striker who has been signed from Villarreal. He's been signed for around £25 million. Thierry Barry's from Guinea, and he's known to be quite a physical, raw striker. He's definitely not the finished article yet. He scored 10 goals last season for Villarreal. I don't expect Barry to start straight away. I think he's going to be rotating with Beto. But I do think Barry is an upgrade on Calvert-Lewin. I think he's got a higher ceiling, and he can make a real impact for Everton in the future. Like I said, he's quite young, but I feel like David Moyes, I think, could really mould him into a Premier League striker, get him running the channels, working hard, getting his hold-up play, really turn him into maybe like Mikel Antonio was used in that West Ham side that he had as well. So I think Barry's an interesting one. We might not see the best of him straight away, but I think he will slowly come into it, and we might see him, score more goals towards the end of the season. But I think Barry and Beto as your two strikers I think you can do a lot worse there. So brilliant signing, I think, for Everton there. That'll be more of a long-term one. Charlie Alcaraz joins the club on a permanent basis. So Alcaraz was, in fact, actually on loan at Everton last season. He impressed. He's hard-working. He's tenacious. He always gives it his most. He cost them £12 million. I expect he'll play in one of the either the number 10 positions or maybe one of the wide positions as well. And I think he can provide cover for some of the other players that come in. The last one, Mark Travers there as well, signed from Bournemouth. I think he's expected just to provide goalkeeper cover for Jordan Pickford. So that's who Everton has signed so far. Let's have a look also at maybe what's in the news at the moment. And this is probably the latest news regarding to Everton. So we do know now that Dewsbury Hall is currently undergoing his medical at Everton. So he will be an Everton player. He's going to cost around 25 million plus £4 million add-ons. Now, initially, I was a bit sceptical on this signing. I had some other players in mind that I thought Everton should sign. I'm interested to see where Dewsbury Hall will play. We know that David Moyes likes to usually play with a midfield pivot. So it'd be interested to see if Dewsbury Hall maybe slots into that pivot next to, maybe James Garner or Idrissa Gana Gay, or maybe he actually plays in that number 10 spot just in front of them. So that'll be quite interesting there. Dewsbury Hall, he's a good player. We've seen him play well for Leicester when he was in the Championship. He was very good. I always thought signing for Chelsea is going to be tough for him to get some game time, but I think he gave a good account of himself when he did play in the Conference League last season. So that's an interesting one. Now, Tyler Diblin. I was talking about Tyler Diblin in my video on Newcastle the other day, and I recommended highly that Newcastle try and sign him. It does seem that Everton are actually linked with him, and they did actually have a £40 million bid rejected. I'm really hot on Tyler Diblin. I think under David Moyes, Diblin can really grow and explode as a really special talent. He's quite a dribbly 10. He can carry it well, and I think having maybe him and Ndai on the sides of a striker could be really dangerous. And it's interesting as well that David Ornstein's actually reporting that Everton have open talks to sign Jack Grealish as well on a potential loan move as well. And the way I look at it, some people think it's maybe a lazy comparison, but Grealish and Diblin, do remind me of the same player. And it's not just the low socks. I think it's the way they can glide across the pitch. They can carry. They can draw fouls. Um, and that leads me just to my next bit here. So just a little comparison between the two. We just have a look at their FB refs here and have a look at what would be the better option, the more I don't know, the better option, the more financially a viable move, what would be the best move for the future? We kind of had this dilemma with Newcastle the other day when we were talking about strikers and, whether they get a win now option, someone who's a bit older, or someone who can grow and become more of a project player. And I think that's what Everton have here. We've got the same dilemma. Do they go and spend that extra bit of cash and get a Tyler Diblin? Maybe a bit more of a risk. It might take him a bit of time to adapt. As you can see here, his stats are nowhere near Jack Grealish's. You can see, Diblin's got a good pass completion and successful take-ons, but other than that, the stats don't look amazing. You can see Grealish is in top percentiles of passes attempted, completed, carries. So Grealish would probably come in and drive more impact straight away, but I think Diblin, at his age, and the talent that he showed, for me, would be the better option. You've also got to consider Grealish's wages. 300k a week is a lot, and you'd have to see how much Everton are actually willing to pay there. Diblin probably, he's currently on around 5k a week at Southampton, so the wages wouldn't be too much. The fee is an interesting one. 50 million does seem a bit steep, but if there can maybe be room to negotiate at around £45 million, I think it'd be a great signing for the future for Everton. So far, I've decided that Everton should go for Tyler Diblin. I think they should lean more for project players. I think it shows ambition more than a Jack Grealish. I think we've seen Everton have tried to be more ambitious. I really like the idea of them trying to sign Liam Delap at the start of the window. It's a shame they couldn't get that one over the line, but I really think it shows their intent. So now moving on to just a few signings. I don't think Everton need to make loads of signings. I just think they need to sign one or two players who can kind of really lift the needle. So the first player that I would like Everton to look at is this man here, who goes by the name of Jack Rodoni. So Jack Rodoni's a 24-year-old attacking midfielder who currently plays in the Championship for Coventry. And Rodoni, he's had his time in the English Pyramid. He's played for Wimbledon. He's played for Huddersfield. He's really kind of done his trade there and worked up through the Football League. Last season was definitely his best season. He was one of Coventry's best players, leading them to the playoffs. He played 43 matches. He got 9 goals and 12 assists. And I feel Jack Rodoni would be a perfect player to play under David Moyes. We know David Moyes likes to play a 4-2-3-1 formation. Rodoni's best position is that number 10 spot in that 4-2-1 formation, which we saw him play under Lampard a lot last season. Rodoni's really good at arriving late into the box, similar to a kind of Frank Lampard or a Jude Bellingham and scoring goals. Actually, 5 out of 9 of his goals were headers last season as well, so it shows that he can attack crosses. We know that Moyes sides like to get balls into the boxes, and you can see having a Rodoni and a Beto both in the box, I think, could be a really dangerous threat. Rodoni also takes a lot of set pieces, so he's Coventry set piece taker. He's very dangerous there as well. We know, David Moyes places a lot of emphasis on set pieces. He's got that chance creation as well. 12 assists last season, I think, showed how important he can be in that department as well. I also think his work rate, his energy and his work rate off the ball, they're widely praised by managers or peers. He can press aggressively from the front. He'll close it down. His defensive actions are really good. You can see some of his numbers here as well. I mean, compared to other players in the Championship, you can see he's in the top percentage for goals, assists, key passes created, shot creating actions. He's really good at progressing the ball, driving it up the pitch, passing it up the pitch. His aerial duels one are good. His tackles and interceptions are good. He's a really all-rounded player. And I do love it when Premier League clubs look into the Championship for talent. I think Rodoni, in the next few seasons could cost around a 50 to 60 million pound player. He just hasn't really been discovered by that club yet. I think a deal could be done at around 15 to 20 million pounds. Coventry will really, really not want to sell him. He's going to be so crucial as they look to go one bigger and get promoted this season. However, when a Premier League club comes in with an offer, it can be hard to turn down. So I think Jack Rodoni would be a perfect player for Everton, and we'll have a look at how he looks in a tactical fit in just a sec. And then finally, for the final signing I would like Everton to make, we've gone a bit ambitious here. So we have gone for a player by the name of Givario Reid, who plays in the Eredivisie for Feyenoord. So Reid is a 19-year-old right back. He burst onto the scene last season, breaking into the Feyenoord starting XI. He played 26 times. He managed to get 2 goals and 6 assists. And I think right back has been an area for Everton which has needed addressing. I feel like Everton, we've had quite a lot of old fullbacks over the years. Seamus Coleman, who's come to the end of his career, Ashley Young, the same. Nathan Patterson probably hasn't quite had the impact that everyone had hoped when he moved from Rangers. So I really feel like Javario Reid could be, a signing that really strengthens Everton's defence and their squad. Some of Reid's strengths, he's very good at one-on-one defending. He's very solid. He's athletic. He has great stamina. I think, two traits are really needed for the Premier League. I don't think he'll have too much of a problem dealing with some of these Premier League wingers. It might be a bit of a shock at first, but I have a feeling he's the type of player who can kind of really get used to the league. He's also very good on the ball. Obviously, defending first, but he's very confident on the ball at his feet. He averages around 40 passes a game, looking at a completion rate of 86%. He's also very good at distributing the ball progressively. He delivers 4.2 progressive passes per 90. So as you can see here, there's probably a bit of room for improvement on some of his stats. Probably needs to work a little bit on his crossing accuracy, but you can see getting 6 assists. He ranked highest of Eredivisie right backs last season for assists, so you can see it as that output there. And I think he offers a bit of tactical versatility to Moyes. We'll jump over to the tactics board in a sec, but I think, he can play that overlapper. He can maybe slot back to form a three at times. I think he could probably even invert with a bit of coaching, I think, on the ball. He has that ability to invert as well and maybe, change that dynamic of that Everton side, even more. He's played in big games last season. He was part of the Feyenoord side that knocked out AC Milan. He did get sent off in the second leg, but Feyenoord went through anyway. But throughout that leg, it was noted how well he actually dealt with Rafa Leao. He really nullified him and kept him quiet as well. Obviously, as a youngster, there's still a few weaknesses in his game, but I think having a coach like David Moyes, he can really help and toughen him up and really turn him into a brilliant defensive player. Similar to Dibble as well, if he's young, he also has good resale value. So I'll be looking at maybe spending around 20 to 30 million if we're going off the price that Chelsea have just paid for Eurohato. And then I think that can easily be a deal done there and then potentially be sold for more in the coming years. So yeah, Javario Reid is my final signing I think Everton should make to boost their chances of European football next season. Now, jumping over to the tactics board, this is how I think Everton will set up under David Moyes next season. As you know from his time at Everton and at West Ham, we know that Moyes tends to like to use this 4-2-3-1 system with a midfield pivot here. At West Ham, it was Rice and Souček. I think it will be Garner and Dewsbury Hall. Now, this is what I was questioning earlier. Is Dewsbury Hall that profile player you want here, or do you want him as a number 10? So I think Dewsbury Hall could play in the 10 position, and we might also see like a James Garner come in, who's been playing in pre-season. Tim can also come in as well and play in midfield there. So that's where I see the midfield looking up. I think Rodoni can play here, supporting Beto. We kind of had these dribbly tens here, Diblin and Ndiaye. I think they can maybe move a bit narrow, and we could see fullbacks like Reid and Mikalenko supporting there, and then Garner and Dewsbury Hall maybe protecting that defence a little bit more. As you can see, it's very attacking, but we can see maybe Rodoni forming a two there as well. Then out of possession, it would be a 4-4-2, so you can move Diblin there and die back, and we just move the fullbacks there. I can see Rodoni making runs around here, getting into the box, really playing off Beto and playing on that partnership. I think the link up here will be interesting. I think Mikalenko could also come up with the team. We want to see a bit more attack, and we could see Asnu. If Everton want to be a bit more defensive, I think Brantford can maybe slot in here, Tarkowski, maybe Reid slots in into more of a right centre back role. When Everton have the ball, we can see the pivot of Garner and Dewsbury Hall here. We can get Diblin to hold the width out on the right. Rodoni comes across. Beto plays up front and Diamond left half space, and then Asnu at top. We're looking at maybe more of a 3-2-5. We could also maybe even have Reid stays here. We could have maybe Asnu inverting with Garner Gay, Dewsbury Hall pulling up next to Rodoni. We could have Ndiaye holding the width and Diblin and play similar to that. I think maybe you need more of a winger profile there, so you might want to bring in McNeil for Ndiaye, and that maybe be one area where Everton could look to sign maybe some winger depth, more of a winger profile. But that's how I see Everton setting up next season. I think mainly it will be in that 4-2, 3-1 there. So we just move these players back here. That's probably the main way I see Everton setting up, and I think that's a really strong, young, dynamic team. You can see the front three behind the striker that Moyes used to like to use it. West Ham, you'd have maybe a Paqueta, someone like Fornals or a Lanzini, and then a Jared Bowen here. Now, Dibbl's not quite Jared Bowen, but I think when he moves inside here, he can be really dangerous with someone like a Reed on the overlap there as well. But you can have a look at maybe some of the market value in this team as well. Fan bases don't like to hear it when they say that they need to buy players and resell them on. But you look at players like Branthwaite, he's looking at around 50 to 60 million. Radoni in the next few years, I think, could be a 40 to 50 million pound player in Dye. Likewise, Diblin, likewise as well. You also got Barry, who I think can develop into a really good striker. He can be rotating out with Beto there as well. So yeah, that's my view and analysis how Everton can best set up to get European football next season. I hope you liked the video. We'll have more videos coming soon. If you would like a specific club for us to do some analysis on, please let me know. Let me know any feedback. What do you think? Who would you sign for Everton? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next one.